Ahoy there, sea explorers. Welcome back to the Treehouse, where we dive deep into the world's most epic, legendary, and downright unbelievable stories about mysteries, lore, and creatures. Today, we're setting sail on a journey beneath the waves to meet two true titans of the ocean, the two most famous sea monsters of all time, the Kraken and the Leviathan. But don't worry, these aren't just stories of scary sea monsters. It's a fun look at two of the most legendary creatures ever to splash into sailors' tales. So, grab your life jackets, tighten your bandanas, and get ready, because we're diving into the deep end. Starting off, we're going to dive deep into what the Kraken is. The creature of the deep. So, what exactly is the Kraken? Imagine a creature so huge that it could wrap its tentacles around a ship and give it a great big squeeze. The Kraken is often described as a monstrous sea giant with massive tentacles that stretch out like an underwater spider web. These tentacles could be as thick as tree trunks and as long as a football field. Some tales even say it has tentacles that can reach up to 100 feet long. That's longer than a blue whale. Now, add in a body the size of an island, giant eyes that glow in the murky deep like glowing lanterns, and a beak that could snap through wood like it's a toothpick. And you've got yourself one wild underwater beast. But here's the catch. Despite its terrifying size and appearance, some legends say the Kraken isn't really out to get anyone. In fact, it might just be one of the ocean's biggest softies. What if it just wanted to play? It's like your pet dog, except, 100 times bigger and with a few extra tentacles. Instead of chasing sticks, it might be chasing schools of fish or playing hide and seek with passing ships. Some sailors even claimed the Kraken would playfully tug at their anchors, like a puppy pulling on a rope toy. Sounds pretty friendly for a sea monster, right? And it's not just size that makes the Kraken special. The creature is often depicted as having a keen intelligence, able to sense danger and predict the movements of ships before they even see it. Some stories say it can even create whirlpools by swimming in circles, stirring the ocean into a swirling, foamy frenzy. Imagine seeing that from your ship, like the world's biggest whirlpool right beneath your feet. So, next we have some ancient legends and tales. The Kraken first made waves in Old Norse mythology. Yep, those same Vikings who sailed around wearing helmets and eating roasted meat over campfires. The ancient Norse people told tales of the Kraken living off the coasts of Norway and Greenland. Imagine setting sail in your Viking longship, only to spot what looks like a floating island. And then that island suddenly moves. According to some Norse legends, the Kraken was so enormous that sailors would mistake it for land, drop anchor, and then, oops, realize they were actually sitting on a giant living creature. One ancient Viking story tells of the Kraken surrounding ships in a giant embrace, its tentacles creating a ring of doom around the boat. Another tale talks about how the Kraken would lie still on the ocean floor, its body camouflaged among rocks and coral, only to rise suddenly when it sensed prey nearby. Imagine the surprise on a sailor's face when their peaceful fishing trip turned into an unexpected Kraken encounter. But not all stories are about danger. Some Vikings believed the Kraken was a protector of the sea, keeping greedy fishermen from taking too much and helping maintain balance in the ocean's ecosystem. In these tales, the Kraken wasn't a monster. It was like the ocean's friendly giant, looking out for the little fish. Next, we have some eyewitness accounts. Over the years, countless sailors have claimed to see the Kraken in action. One of the earliest and most dramatic accounts comes from a Norwegian bishop named Erik Pontoppidan in the 18th century. He described the Kraken as so big it was the size of a floating island. Erik claimed that when the Kraken was hungry, it would rise to the surface, creating giant whirlpools that pulled fish, and sometimes entire ships, straight into its belly. He even said that fish would leap out of the water and land on the decks of boats, trying to escape the Kraken's grasp. That's what you call fresh catch of the day. Then there's the tale of Captain Blackbeard, the most notorious pirate of the seven seas. According to some accounts, Blackbeard himself added special markings to his sea maps, warning sailors of the waters where the Kraken was known to lurk. But was the Kraken really there, or was Blackbeard just trying to keep other pirates away from his secret treasure spots? Either way, The Kraken's reputation kept sailors on edge, wondering if today was the day they'd meet the legendary beast. There are also stories from the 1700s of sailors spotting what looked like a giant squid attacking whales in the North Atlantic Ocean. They described seeing long, snake-like tentacles wrapping around their boats, leaving massive sucker marks on the wooden hulls. One captain even reported his crew watching in awe as the Kraken battled a sperm whale, a showdown of titans right before their eyes. While these accounts are often exaggerated, they paint a vivid picture of just how awe-inspiring the Kraken could be. Before we jump to our next creature, we need to talk about the science behind the Kraken. We've put together the most likely culprits who could be the inspiration behind the beast. So, is the Kraken real? Well, sort of. The legend of the Kraken is believed to be inspired by actual creatures of the deep sea, like the giant squid and the colossal squid. These real-life squids can grow up to 40 feet long. That's as long as a school bus. And some scientists believe there may be even bigger ones lurking in the unexplored depths of the ocean. With tentacles lined with sharp serrated suckers and eyes the size of basketballs, these squids are pretty close to the Kraken of legend. But unlike the Kraken, these squids aren't trying to sink ships. They're just living their best squid lives, hunting fish and sometimes getting a little too curious about the weird floating objects that pass overhead. Think of it like a giant underwater puppy who's just trying to figure out what's going on. One of the most exciting scientific discoveries came in 2004 when Japanese researchers managed to capture photos of a live giant squid for the first time. The squid was over 20 feet long and had bright flashing tentacles that shimmered like neon lights. And in 2012, a team of scientists filmed a giant squid in its natural habitat for the first time, deep in the Pacific Ocean. These modern-day sightings remind us that even today, the ocean is full of mysteries waiting to be discovered. There's also the colossal squid, which lives in the dark, icy waters of Antarctica and can weigh up to 1,500 pounds. It has massive, hook-like claws on its tentacles and a body covered in sharp, spiky armor. If you thought the giant squid was impressive, wait until you meet its bigger, badder cousin. These squids might not be the Kraken, but they're definitely cool enough to earn a spot in the Kraken's family tree. Next, we have some pop culture references. The Kraken has slithered its way into all sorts of pop culture, from movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, where it shows up as a ship-destroying menace, to video games like Sea of Thieves, where it lurks beneath the waves waiting to challenge daring sailors. The Kraken is always a hit. In the movie Clash of the Titans, the Kraken is portrayed as a mighty beast that threatens to destroy an entire city unless it's stopped by the hero. It's even featured in God of War, where battling the Kraken is one of the toughest challenges. The Kraken also pops up in books like 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea by Jules Verne, where Captain Nemo and his crew have a terrifying encounter with a giant squid. And in comics and graphic novels, the Kraken often serves as a symbol of the unknown, huge, mysterious, and just a little bit scary. It's like the ultimate boss fight of the sea, and who doesn't love a good boss fight? In board games and card games, the Kraken often appears as a wild card that can turn the tide of the game. And in mythology-themed TV shows and cartoons, the Kraken is frequently depicted as both a fearsome foe and an unlikely ally, showing that even the scariest creatures can have a soft side. It's this versatility that makes the Kraken so much fun, whether it's sinking ships, guarding treasure, or just being an enormous underwater beast. It's always ready to steal the show. So, what do you think, adventurers? The Kraken might be the ocean's greatest mystery, a mix of myth, monster, and maybe even a little misunderstood. Whether it's a giant squid, a colossal creature, or just a really cool story, the Kraken continues to capture our imaginations. It's a creature that's big, bold, and a little bit bonkers, just like the ocean itself. Who wouldn't want to believe that somewhere out there, beneath the waves? A giant sea creature is just waiting for its next big adventure. So, next time you're at the beach or sailing the seven seas, keep your eyes open. Maybe you'll encounter the Kraken. Next on our list is the monster that started it all. Meet the Leviathan, the legendary sea serpent. Say hello to the Leviathan. But don't worry, this isn't just another scary sea monster story. Nope, The Leviathan is way more than that. It's a sea serpent that's been featured in ancient legends, holy texts, and even a few campfire stories told by pirates. Some say it's a fearsome beast, others think it's a guardian of the deep. So grab your snorkels, tighten your flippers, and get ready for a deep dive into the world of the Leviathan, the mighty ruler of the ocean depths. So, what exactly is the Leviathan? Leviathan is the original sea monster. Imagine a creature so big that it could stretch across an entire football field, with scales tougher than a dragon's armor, and teeth sharper than a great white shark's. The Leviathan is often described as a giant sea serpent or dragon, with a body that coils and twists like a never-ending snake. Some tales say it's so massive that when it swims, it creates tidal waves that can reach the shore and storms that darken the skies. But wait, there's more. The Leviathan is said to have glowing eyes that pierce through the darkest parts of the ocean, and some stories even claim it can breathe fire, turning the sea into a boiling cauldron. Imagine a creature that combines the coolest parts of a snake, dragon, and submarine all in one. Now that's the Leviathan. Some ancient texts describe its skin as being covered in impenetrable scales that act like armor, making it invincible against any weapon. Its back is said to have rows of spikes that stick up like razor-sharp mountains, and when it surfaces, steam rises from its nostrils like a boiling kettle. Talk about dramatic. But don't let the fearsome appearance fool you. Some legends suggest the Leviathan isn't just a mindless beast, but a clever ancient creature with a mind of its own. In some stories, the Leviathan is described as having a voice that echoes like thunder, and when it roars, the sea itself trembles. It's even been depicted with glowing fins that light up the water like a deep-sea disco party. With its long, slithering body and shimmering scales, the Leviathan is like the ocean's ultimate superstar, a creature that combines mystery, power, and a little bit of magic. So now we turn to the history of the legendary beast, the ancient stories of the Leviathan. The Leviathan has been making waves in stories for thousands of years. It first appears in ancient texts, like the Bible, where it's described as a terrifying sea monster that God created to show off the power and wildness of the ocean. In these stories, the Leviathan is a symbol of chaos, an untamable beast that roams the seas, reminding everyone just how powerful and unpredictable the ocean can be. One of the most famous mentions of the Leviathan is in the book of Job, where it's described as a creature so fearsome that no sword, spear, or arrow can pierce its scales. It sneezes flashlight, its breath ignites coals, and its wake leaves a trail in the water that glistens like oil. The text paints the Leviathan as a creature of both beauty and terror, showcasing nature's wild side in all its glory. In Jewish mythology, the Leviathan is one of the primordial sea monsters, created to rule the waters alongside its land counterpart, the behemoth. According to legend, the Leviathan was originally created in pairs, but one was destroyed to prevent them from breeding and overwhelming the world. Some stories even say that the remaining Leviathan will play a role at the end of times, either as a destroyer of worlds or as the main course at a celestial feast for the righteous. That's one dinner party you wouldn't want to miss. The ancient Phoenicians, who were some of the greatest sailors of the ancient world, also had their own versions of the Leviathan. They spoke of a monstrous sea dragon that guarded the waters of the Mediterranean, protecting hidden treasure and ancient secrets buried beneath the waves. Some sailors claimed the Leviathan would appear when the sea was roughest, its massive coils rising like mountains from the deep. It was said that only the bravest sailors could navigate the Leviathan's territory, where its shadow loomed large beneath the surface. Even the ancient Greeks had stories of giant sea serpents that sound suspiciously like the Leviathan. They called it Cetus, a monstrous sea creature sent by the gods to terrorize sailors. In one tale, the hero Perseus had to face a giant sea monster to save the Princess Andromeda. Does that sound familiar? The Leviathan might just be the original sea monster that started it all. Other cultures, like the ancient Babylonians, had their own versions too, often depicting the Leviathan as a great beast defeated by their gods in epic battles representing the victory of order over chaos. Now, it's time to turn towards some eyewitness accounts regarding this beast. Over the centuries, countless sailors have claimed to spot the Leviathan, or at least something like it. Imagine you're a sailor on a stormy sea in the 1600s, trying to navigate through rough waters, when suddenly you see it. A massive, scaly back slicing through the waves, and a head the size of a ship's mast breaking the surface. Yikes. One famous account comes from the 16th century Swedish sailor Olaus Magnus, who claimed to have seen a giant sea serpent over 200 feet long off the coast of Norway. He described it as having a mane like a horse, fiery red eyes, and scales so thick they could deflect cannonballs. Magnus even said the serpent could rear its head out of the water and grab entire boats in its jaws. Talk about a close encounter. Olaus's drawings of the creature became some of the earliest popular illustrations of sea monsters and sparked imaginations across Europe. Another account from the 19th century tells of a British naval ship, the HMS Daedalus, encountering a 60-foot-long serpent swimming alongside them. The sailors described its head as resembling a dragon, with a long, slender neck and eyes that glowed like fireflies in the night. The crew watched in stunned silence as the creature glided by, disappearing into the depths as mysteriously as it appeared. This sighting was so well documented that it became a sensation, fueling debates among scientists and sea captains alike about what exactly was lurking in the deep. And then there's the legendary sea serpent of Gloucester sighting in 1817, when dozens of fishermen and townspeople in Massachusetts claimed to see a creature at least 100 feet long swimming near the harbor. Descriptions of the creature matched the classic Leviathan look, a long snake-like body with a horse-like head, moving through the water with surprising speed. The sightings caused such a stir that newspapers across America reported on the monstrous sea serpent of Gloucester, keeping the legend alive for years. Other accounts have come from around the world, from the Loch Ness Monster in Scotland, which some believe might be a smaller relative of the Leviathan, to reports of giant serpents off the coasts of Japan and South Africa. Some sailors even claimed that the Leviathan would follow their ships, waiting patiently for the right moment to strike, while others reported seeing the creature sunning itself on the surface like a lazy sea dragon enjoying a sunny day. We can now take a look behind the science of this sea monster. So, could the Leviathan be real? Well, while the fire-breathing dragon bit might be a stretch. The oceans are home to some pretty gigantic creatures that could have inspired the legend. One of the top contenders is the giant oarfish, a real-life sea serpent that can grow up to 36 feet long, about the length of a school bus. Oarfish have long, ribbon-like bodies with silvery scales and bright red fins that stick up like spikes, making them look like something straight out of a myth. These shy giants are rarely seen because they live deep underwater, but when they do appear, it's like seeing a real-life sea monster. Another possibility is the now extinct mosasaur, a massive marine reptile that lived during the age of the dinosaurs. Imagine a creature as long as a city bus, with a powerful tail and a mouth filled with sharp teeth. Mosasaurs were the apex predators of the ancient seas, and their fossils suggest they could have been the inspiration for sea serpent legends passed down through the ages. They were fast, fierce, and could easily dominate the seas, making them perfect candidates for ancient tales of monstrous sea beasts. There's also the real-life accounts of giant squids, like the colossal squid, which can grow up to 46 feet long and has tentacles armed with rotating hooks. Scientists have found scars on the bodies of whales from these deep-sea battles, showing that even in today's world, the ocean still holds creatures that could easily be mistaken for monsters. The first giant squid was photographed alive in 2004, proving that these once mythical creatures are not just legends, they're real, and they're out there. The blue whale, the largest animal ever known to exist, also plays into this, weighing up to 200 tons and stretching as long as 100 feet. It's easy to see how early sailors unfamiliar with these giants could mistake a surfacing blue whale for something monstrous and otherworldly. Whales' long, sleek bodies and the massive spouts of water they blow into the air could easily match some descriptions of sea serpents sighted throughout history. And let's not forget about the Greenland shark, a creature that lives for hundreds of years and grows up to 20 feet long. with its slow, ghostly glide through the water and a face that looks straight out of a prehistoric nightmare. The Greenland shark could easily have been mistaken for a young Leviathan by sailors unfamiliar with its ancient appearance. Next, we want to put together some pop culture references. This is stuff you might all know the Leviathan from. The Leviathan is not just stuck in ancient texts, it's made a splash in pop culture too. From video games to movies, this legendary sea serpent has been reimagined in countless ways. In the hit game Final Fantasy, the Leviathan is a massive, water-controlling serpent that can summon tidal waves to crush its enemies, serving as one of the game's most powerful summons. And in the movie Pacific Rim, giant monsters called kaiju are named after ancient sea creatures, with some designs clearly inspired by the Leviathan's monstrous form. Books like Moby Dick by Herman Melville and The Sea of Monsters from the Percy Jackson series also borrow from the Leviathan's lore, blending its terrifying and mystical nature into modern storytelling. In Percy Jackson, it's not just a monster, but a guardian of the deep, a creature that must be respected and avoided by heroes. This take on the Leviathan shows that it's more than just a beast, it's a force of nature that heroes must confront. In TV shows like Supernatural, the Leviathan is portrayed as a powerful force of chaos, an almost unbeatable enemy that is both cunning and ancient. In Doctor Who, a giant space whale is shown carrying an entire city on its back, combining the creature's legendary size with a new twist for the sci-fi world. In comics, the Leviathan often appears as a giant sea dragon, sometimes guarding hidden treasure, other times wreaking havoc on coastal cities. It's like the ultimate symbol of the ocean's untamed power, unpredictable, wild, and awe-inspiring. Whether it's battling heroes, sinking ships, or just lurking in the background as a legendary presence, the Leviathan continues to capture imaginations everywhere. In Marvel Comics, the Leviathan has even been a recurring threat, symbolizing the chaotic and monstrous forces lurking just beneath the surface of our world. Role-playing games like Dungeons & Dragons frequently feature the Leviathan as a formidable sea creature that players must outsmart or defeat. It's often depicted as the guardian of underwater treasures or an ancient creature awakened from its slumber by unwary adventurers, adding to its mystique and allure. So, what do you think, ocean adventurers? The Leviathan might just be the ultimate sea serpent, a mix of ancient myth, wild imagination, and maybe even a few real-life encounters. It's a creature that's fascinated humans for thousands of years, from the ancient world to today's movies and games. Whether it's a fiery dragon of the deep, a giant serpent with an attitude, or just a cool story passed down through the ages, the Leviathan is a reminder of just how wild and wonderful the ocean can be. So next time you're at the beach or looking out over the ocean, keep an eye on the horizon. Who knows? Maybe you'll spot a ripple, a flash of scales, or a tail disappearing beneath the waves. And remember, even the wildest creatures can have a story worth telling. Thanks for joining us on this deep-sea adventure. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more legendary creature tales. Until next time, keep exploring, keep imagining, and keep your eyes on the sea. You never know what might be lurking below.